Okay.
Hi, Mr. Fisher. How are you doing?
I'm good, Hazel. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How would you describe your position at ISK?
All right. Well, this is my sixth year here at ISK, and for each of my years, I have been in the high school humanities department. So I did actually, I forgot about this, but I did teach 1 year of grade 9 when I first got here. But I'd say for the majority of my time here, it's been grade 10 world civilizations, IB geography, or IB TOK, and then some electives as well. And I've also been an active coach here, so I've been coaching the varsity girls volleyball team and basketball teams for the past 6 years.
Awesome. How has the new school year been going for you so far?
I think, like all of us, it's been a bit of a challenge, and I think that you take each week and well, each day probably. Weeks are probably too wide of a margin, but each day as it comes. So it was um, even back to when we first started in March going online. That was a bit of a challenge coming into the school year. Not knowing what to do has been a bit of a challenge. Now in hybrid is certainly a challenge, but the school year has been good because I think ultimately, if you're surrounded by good people, you enjoy yourself a lot more. So, um, if it happens to be a week that I'm completely online, then that's just the way it is. But anytime we get to interact with students and be around faculty, it's that's made it great. So in that case, it's been, you know, in a troubling year, it's the ways you keep your sanity, I guess. And I think surrounding yourself with good people is how I've been doing it.
Awesome. What are you most excited for this school year?
For the school year, I think it's hard to make plans when we don't really know what's up ahead. And I think in the high school, we're quite used to going season by season or whatever is important to you, whether it's a drama performance or whether it's an ICEA or, as a senior, you're probably, wondering what's going to happen second term with some of the tent poles that seniors go through, mocks, Moja, things like that, right? Or Tamaja, is that how you pronounce the prom here? I can't really remember. But anyway, so I'm not really looking ahead as much as I'm just kind of taking it as it comes. And I guess I will be looking forward to a time when I'm sure, whether it's January or whether it's later, when all students are back, it'd be nice to meet some of the grade 10s that I'm actually teaching, instead of just seeing their faces on Zoom. And then I think if you are optimistic but also prepared for the worst, then anything that's an upgrade is a positive, right? So I'll take that as it comes. And if we end up having a little bit more involvement with students, even better. If we can get back to some form of normalcy, great. But I think one thing I have really enjoyed, and I hope this doesn't spoil a future question, is students or clubs or staff who are kind of seeking this as a new opportunity to do things differently instead of just trying to mimic what's been done in the past. So new initiatives popping up give me a lot of, I like seeing that, and I like seeing how, I hear the drama department is doing more of a radio piece as opposed to a play. I think that's a cool idea. So anything I hear that's kind of taking advantage of the changes has been nice and something I guess I look forward to.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure it's like hard to like meet students over Zoom, and it's hard to also plan for the future. So you've kind of answered this, but like, what is it like teaching during these times? What challenges have you faced, and have there been any positives in this situation?
Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges for sure. I mean, as someone who I think I would say if I had to evaluate my own teaching practice, rambly comes up occasionally. I do like talking a lot with students, and I like a lot of back and forth. So it's been a lot of talking to myself in a room, which is odd when you're just staring at a screen. That was a little bit troublesome. You don't get a lot of feedback from students because I think big Zoom chats. I mean, you probably would know a lot more about this as a student, but it's a little bit less inviting to kind of get your voice out there. Clearly I'm hilarious, so the fact that kids aren't laughing at my jokes as much is definitely a downside. But there are positives, right? And I think I think I'm fortunate to teach the subjects I do because they do tend to lend better to some of the online teaching that's been happening. So that's been a plus. I think I've had a lot more one-on-one chats with students over Zoom, which once you get over the awkwardness, it's actually great. You get to hear a little bit more of how things are going, and it kind of just force the pace as opposed to a quick chat when they might be walking out the door.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of intentionality that I like about what's happening right now. But yeah, I think it's making the best of the situation, and then and certainly not dwelling on the challenges because I think they can seem overwhelming at times. Yeah.
So you mentioned you've like been coach for volleyball. I know you also do MUN in the high school. So how have you managed those extracurricular activities online?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot to mention MUN. There you go. Um, yeah, those have been well. MUN's actually fine. I mean, to be honest, it's nice to be in a room with each other, but we really just debate. So it's a lot easier to mute kids on Zoom than in real life. So that one's not so bad. Um, Sports have been a challenge. We've just started to come back and do things that slightly resemble practices, but you know, running around with masks on, I can barely teach with a mask on and not get hot. I can imagine, when we get in the gym, it's a little bit harder. So that's been a bit more of a challenge. But again, you just kind of you hope that you have good people and that can make it fun and can find ways to do it. Some of the virtual training that we've done is kind of unique, and we can still do team meetings online and things like that. So um, yeah, it is a little bit harder, I think, for students to get out and stay in shape. So I'm more, instead of maybe now at this point in the season, especially for basketball, where we would have just had ISEA volleyball, but now we'd be prepping for ISEA basketball and talking more about competition. So this year's less about competition and more about pushing things that are more advocating for a genuinely healthy lifestyle, which is not a bad thing either, right? And lifelong connection with sport has always been a goal of mine, that people want to do these things outside of high school. So you still get to focus on that.
So out of the three classes you teach in the high school, World Civ 2, IB Geography, and IB TOK, which one is your favorite to teach? Like not the students, but specifically like the content matter.
Are you fishing for me to say TOK because you're in my class?
No, you can choose whatever one you feel is correct.
Um, you know what? You got to catch me on a different week. Every week it kind of is different. I think IBGO is always really fun because it's extremely current and it's very relevant, and you get to actually um, use very current materials. And I also think I do tend to gravitate more towards like the older students who are kind of ready in a little bit more of an academic way to dissect things. So that's always fun. But grade 10, there's kind of an innocence to grade 10. I say it to them all the time, but they're for older people. Grade 10s are just entering like their Empire Strikes Back phase. I guess for younger people, grade 10s are more Infinity War versus Endgame. They want the world to be a horrible place. They want the devastate. This is the first time they're kind of recognizing some of these vast inequalities, and so they like to complain about them, and I kind of like that. And then TOK, I honestly, I'll be honest, I don't love the TOK assessments, but I very much like talking about TOK and the concepts and the philosophy interest me. So it really just depends on the day in terms of what class is going, which would be my favorite to teach.
I have to agree with you about TOK because I'm taking the full diploma and I'm not enjoying those assessments either.
It's just awkward. There's no way to feel comfortable while writing them, but
Yeah.
whatever.
How are you keeping yourself mentally stimulated?
Ooh, great question. I'll say I'm trying to stay as active as I can. DDL I was very successful in having my own personal hobbies and being able to be active and going for runs. And um, hybrid's been a little bit harder. We're still trying to find a balance. There's a lot more hours in school, and so I would be lying to you if I said I'm succeeding in the last couple of weeks. But hopefully, a balance returns. For me, I mean, I need to have a certain amount of sunshine or outdoor breeze for me to feel somewhat centered. So as long as I'm able to do that, I'm okay. And then, teachers, I know it's hard for students to always picture us outside in the real world, but any times I can escape and hang out with some friends, or I do enjoy movies. I enjoy writing. So as long as I can occasionally touch base with those things, I'm staying sane for now. So.
How would you encourage not just students, but like other people in the ISK community to learn more about World Civ or geography? Like how can we start learning about those topics by ourselves?
I think a lot of people actually accidentally do. I think it's stuff that you tend to keep up on if you pay attention to news events. So I think the best way to do it, if you want to do it in what I would say properly, and I know there's an arrogance in me saying that, but I think if you're going to do it properly, um, it's actively looking for varying sources of decent quality. Um, I think it's the most important part of both of those subjects is it forces you to question your sources and your own biases and actively seek out the opinions of those who you might not always agree with. And I think that, yeah, because I think that the issues that they're dealing with are extremely current, relevant, and easy to find. I just think with our current algorithms of news, it's also a lot easier to find things that are only in the viewpoint that appeases us. And I think it's very easy to accuse others of not doing that, but it's very challenging for you to do that yourself. So for people who like those fields, or younger students who want to be better at those fields, I'd say that is one blanket statement that would apply to both for sure.
And you mentioned you like movies. Is there anything interesting that you're watching right now, whether a movie or a TV show?
Ooh, good question. So you know what? This bodes well to a current. I recently had a birthday, and I decided before my next birthday, I want to try and watch. I think a movie a day is ambitious, but I think if you at least somewhere in the realm of 5 movies a week to try and catch up on any movie that I've always wanted to watch but I haven't, or taking chances on other movies. I'm getting tired of series. I think I out TV showed myself at the beginning of quarantine. And I like this idea of not having to tell a story over 10 hours, but just tell it to me in an hour or 2 hours in a confined space. So what have I been watching recently? That was, you know what? I had never seen the movie Easy A. It's about 10 years old now, and I just watched that for the first time. And then I followed it up with Seven, which I watched in the 90s and probably haven't watched since. So not, I think that was like 2 nights ago. I tried to do a back-to-back feature. I wouldn't recommend them next to each other, but independently, they work pretty well together. Or
Yeah,
sorry,
I've seen both of
independently, they
those
work well
movies.
on their own.
Yeah, I've seen both those movies. They're pretty good, but I agree, like back to back might not be the best way to watch them.
Yeah, it was a bit odd. Maybe a bad choice on that one. But anyway, I didn't mind.
Yeah, so anything else you'd like to add?
No, not really. Just excited to see where this ends up, and hopefully, maybe when I was referring to projects like new things that are coming out, this is kind of what I'm talking about. So I appreciate you taking some time to highlight different things and different people on campus. I think it's nice.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fisher.
Thanks.